Hey all, Glenn Kirshner here. Yesterday I attended the protest in Washington, D.C. It was a sea of people. People of all colors, people of all ethnicities, people of all ages. It was stirring, it was inspirational, it was, in a word, beautiful. In the aftermath of what those 4 police officers did to George Floyd, there have been sustained protests all around our nation. And we have seen peaceful protests and we've seen property damage. We've seen protesters singing, we've seen protesters stealing. We've seen love, we've seen looting. With respect to the police officers, we have seen police officers standing in solidarity with we the people. For example,
don't say that, okay?
We're here to protect you, okay? We're not here to hurt you at all, okay? You can protest, you can march, you can do whatever you want. Just don't break nothing.
we have seen police officers abusing we the people. Folks, the need for police reform is real, and it is so long overdue. And our continued refusal to deal with the need for police reform will continue to have deadly consequences. And they're deadly consequences that will visit our African American friends in disproportionately high numbers. We know this, and we won't take it anymore. Let me state the obvious. Most police officers are good. Most police officers take their oath to protect and defend we the people seriously, and they act accordingly. I got a text the other day from one of my old homicide detectives that I worked with for decades, a good man, a man from whom I learned so much. And he said, Glenn, I can't put into words how those 4 police officers who killed George Floyd tarnished the badge that I wore proudly my entire career. And it was a consequential career, 40 years in both local and then federal law enforcement. But those who don't take their oaths seriously, those officers who would perpetrate excessive force on we the people, abuse we the people, they need to be dealt with. People say, well, one bad apple doesn't spoil the whole barrel. But you can't just take 1 or 2 abusive apples out of the barrel and have the people have confidence in the remaining barrel full of apples. Abusive policing is more like a drop of poison in a pot of chili. Nobody's going to have confidence in wolfing down that chili that has a drop of poison in it, even if the rest of the ingredients are just fine. It infects everything. It infects the public's perception and confidence in the police when you have even a handful of abusive police officers. And yes, the abusive police officers need to be held accountable on the back end, but there's something far more important. They need to be weeded out on the front end before they ever have the right of putting a badge on their chest and a gun on their hip and getting to exercise power over we the people. And if you've seen any of my earlier videos on this topic, you know that I firmly believe that we need a 3-point plan, extreme vetting of police officers during the hiring process. Extreme training and testing throughout their time on the force, not just when they're in the police academy. And extreme accountability when they perpetrate violence, excessive force, abuse on we the people. Let's think about it this way. We get to vote for who we want representing us in Congress in Washington. We get to vote on who we think our governor should be, who our mayor should be, who should be on our city council. We get to vote for the people who will enact the laws that we have to live by. We get to vote for the people who will either increase or decrease our taxes, and the people who will decide how our tax dollars are spent. But we don't get to vote on who gets a badge and a gun and gets to order us around. And I don't mean that in a flip way, in a cavalier way. We don't get to vote on the people who will have the ultimate power over us and the most direct power over us day to day. People who can order us to stop our car. People who can order us out of our car. People who can order us onto the ground. People who can put handcuffs on us. We don't get to vote on who those people are. You know, policing really should be a partnership between those doing the policing and those being policed. And it should be like a social contract, a covenant of trust between those two groups of people, the police and the citizens. That's why it's time for a sea change. It's time for full, fair, and robust citizen participation in the hiring and vetting process of aspiring police officers. Listen, it's only fair that if police officers are going to have power over our day-to-day lives, the power to order us to do or decline to do something, we should have a say. We should have at least some say in who those people are and whether they're the kind of people who deserve the trust that we put in law enforcement officers. So vetting on the front end with full citizen participation is, I think, the ticket to making sure that the people who protect and serve are protecting us and serving us. Let me talk about one other aspect quickly, and it's accountability on the back end. We talk about vetting on the front end, accountability on the back end. We have seen too often multiple complaints against abusive police officers. And we have seen too often police officers who have acted in a way that disqualifies them from continuing to serve as a police officer, remain on the force, or be put off the force or allowed to resign only to come back on another police force, join another law enforcement agency. Again, time for a sea change, and this one is obvious and intuitive. If you're a police officer and you are found, if there's a sustained finding of abusive conduct, of excessive force that you perpetrated against one of our own, one strike and you're out. And not only are you out of this game, you never come back into this game, not on this team, not on a different law enforcement team. One strike and you're out. The people deserve that. How do we accomplish that? Well, one of our Team Justice members tweeted something today, and it caught my eye, and I hope he doesn't mind if I flash his bio up. His name on Twitter is Cato Justice, Justus 4. And he said, look, and this may be his idea, original idea, it may not be. I'm sure many people have thought of it before. But I find that so many of the Team Justice members, so many of the folks on Twitter and on YouTube have great ideas for police reform. And what he said is, look, we have national registries for so many things. Why not a national police accountability registry, right? One strike, we find that one sustained complaint of abusive conduct, of excessive force, and the officer's name goes on the national registry, and he or she is prohibited from ever serving in any law enforcement capacity again. It only makes sense, right? So thank you, Cato Justice 4. He called it, again, I don't know if this is his idea, but I want to give him credit, the National Accountability Registry for Cops. You ready? N-A-R-C, NARC. Cute, right? I wish I could come up with good acronyms. But if we don't catch them with the extreme vetting on the front end, and we realize that they are tarnishing the badge by abusing the citizens, by engaging in excessive force, then it's extreme accountability on the back end. One strike and you're out, and everybody will see where to go. The National Accountability Registry for Cops. Everyone will see where to go, so that you will never again wear a badge, carry a gun, and exercise power and authority over we the people. Lots of great common sense reforms, and it's time, folks. It's time. I've said it before, I can feel it. When I was in that sea of protesters, we the people, we the protesters, chanting, demanding justice, demanding fairness, demanding equality for everyone, especially our brothers and sisters who are most at risk. It's time. And we're going to seize the day. As always, folks, please stay safe. And I look forward to talking with you again tomorrow.